Thank you.
Which sounds like Small Potatoes, but it's a suburb of Minneapolis.
But it's right next to Minneapolis.
yeah, right.
It's not one of these
It's right on the
deep
border.
suburbs.
It's not like secondary suburb. It's right there.
It's right on the border of North Minneapolis.
Yeah. So anyway, we hit it off. It turned out we liked a lot of the same music, and we ended up jamming and became friends.
Yeah.
The kind of music that you listened to then, would one of you pull out a Charlie Parker record?
At the time, we probably weren't familiar with. I know I wasn't at the time.
We grew together with our tastes. We were always have kind of been aligned. We started out more as rock when we were very young.
Would you actually play covers of songs?
Sure.
Like
These guys are an encyclopedia.
Oh.
Rare, really obscure bands like Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what would be an obscure band that, is that an obscure? No, never mind.
It is to him. Well, we used to play The Firm, Radioactive. Remember that jam?
That's a fat jam.
Yeah. And that went pretty far with you there, didn't it, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
My
that was
radio wasn't
obscure,
turned on that
right?
day. I knew exactly what you were talking about.
No, The Firm. You didn't know that, right?
No,
so
The Firm, that's right. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Stumped him.
okay.
Ah.
So then we started to get into kind of almost fusion things. We were 15, 16, and we started to go back then. And by the time we were in high school, we were listening to, the Charlie Parker, and John Coltrane, things like that. Really immersing ourselves in that and playing as well as we, attempting to play like that.
So, but why a trio then? How did it get? Well, first of all, he came into the picture. When did you meet Ethan? Ethan, when did you meet them?
Reed went to school in Wisconsin for
Which is where you lived?
just a year, right, before he moved on. But I grew up in Menominee, Wisconsin, and then I met Reed when he was going to college. I was actually still in high school. I'm just barely younger. But then the three of us actually played in Reed's house one time in, 89?
Something like that.
Something like that, and which was a mediocre session. But
What would you what kind of stuff would you play? I mean, let
we
me
played just like some jazz tunes,
Okay.
badly.
Yeah.
But
It was electrifying.
For some of us. Yeah.
And so then, but then we all kept in touch. But then we formed the band about 4 years ago.
I just want to stop 1 second just to remind that there are people who are listening to the webcast who, if they're listening right now on May 5th, and it's after 2 o'clock on the East Coast, can actually email questions to the band. We'll get past the beginning life story and where you were born and stuff. And I'd love people to ask about things regarding music and things that they find in their music if they know the band. And they can do that by writing all songs, ALLSONGS at npr.org. So not electrifying in 1989 to some, and to some totally memorable.
A fun day.
But then you guys didn't do it again for 10 or 11 or something years. Is that right?
Part of that was just a geographical concern because Dave moved out to the West Coast. I moved to Philadelphia.
That would be a problem.
Ethan moved to New York, so it was hard to get together, just to have a session.
What finally brought the three of you together? Geography again, or was it a concerted?
Yeah, we started to discuss the idea of playing together around 2000 in a regular thing. Ethan and I had played a few times in the 90s with different bass players, and Reed and I have always kept in contact. And so we decided to do a weekend in Minneapolis, kind of as a center for us. And we played a club, and that's when we discussed kind of how we would approach it. We obviously didn't have time to get together a lot of original music, although we did play a lot of Ethan's tunes that were meant for his other trio that he had with Reed and Billy Hart, the drummer Billy Hart. So
Ethan, you play a lot of classical music. When I walked in the door this morning behind that piano, I don't remember what you were playing, but it wasn't.
I'm an amateur at classical music, but I've practiced a fair amount of it. And I was the musical director for the Mark Morris Dance Group for 5 years.
And as musical director, would you help pick the music for?
Not really, but
What does a musical
just
director do?
just sort of holding the reins in the pit. You know what I mean, and performing some
Actually, I
classical
don't
music.
know what do you mean by holding the reins in the pit?
Well, being the liaison between the artistic director, Mark Morris,
Uh-huh.
and the live music being
I
played for his
see.
show,
I see.
and being sort of the boss.
Okay.
Holding the reins in my book means boss. So I was the boss, you know. And one of the great things about this band now is that unlike an earlier incarnation, like with Reed and a different drummer or whatever, no one's a boss anymore, or we're all the boss. It's three leaders here in the group together.
Could you play another tune for us, and come back? We'll talk some more, because one of the things that I find it fascinating about this group. You can get up too while I talk. I know it's a little rude.
No, I have to explain the tune though. So they'll get
good.
ready, and then I'll go
All right.
run over there.
Because one of the things I love about this band, when I listen to music, I listen by just sticking CDs on, and I don't look at what I'm listening to. And one thing that struck me right off about this group, and I'd like to talk more about it, is that there is the trio, which we know in jazz history, many of them, but the balance, both in the mix of the music and the balance in the way you interact with one another, was completely different than most of the trios I've ever heard. So
Yeah, that's
how are you
something
going to
that's really
represent
important
that
to-
in the song we're about to hear?
Well, you'll hear once again a three-way conversation. This is a piece by myself, and one of the reasons we're playing it today is geography. It's a pretty new tune of mine.
So this isn't on the Columbia
No,
record?
actually, today for the rest of the evening, we're actually going to play new tunes and sort of
Well, that's
introduce them to people, and
Great.
Get to work on them a bit. And this is one that's called Cheney Pinata.
Cheney as in...
Yeah, I think he's pretty close to here right
Okay.
now, actually. A couple blocks away, probably.
the vice president.
So
Cheney
this is
Pinata.
this is a piece with, I would say, some real pinata feeling, and but it does end in tragedy.
The true story. The Bad Plus on All Songs Considered. Write us at allsongs@npr.org. And enjoy. Tell your friends. Call them up. If your phone line's not busy with your modem. Here's Bad Plus.